mom in California. You know how moms are.
So we've known Tanya and her husband Tom and family for a number of years now. They live up in the Raleigh area. And shoot, I'm trying to remember the first time. This isn't the first time, but I just remember sitting in Sunday school one time, and I can't remember what was being said.
But I probably had a comment.
But she had a comment, and I know it was something about her hair, because I said, and your red hair, and Tanya in front of everyone said, "Oh no, this is not natural." So this is what you need to know about Tanya. She will tell you exactly what she's thinking and feeling, and we love her for it. But we hope that you enjoy the words that she has, the message, and really what she's going to present to you. At the end of all this, if you'll give me the mic back, and we'll wrap it up. Do you want this?
Sure, let's start with it. It's fine.
I'm so excited to be here. And what's funny is there's always this little bit of nervous, right? Like, play cool, Tanya. You're in a new group. They don't know you. Keep it cool. Lower your voice. That's usually when I walk into a room. It's like I don't need this microphone. I have to like hold it farther away because it's usually But what's great about this setting is I know I'm here with all of you. I'm in the absolute safest group, a group of women, right? When someone's in danger, they say, "What do you look for?" A mom with kids. If you're in danger, look for a mom, look for a woman. And so I know I feel totally safe with you. Also, I'm just so excited because I know I don't know you yet, but I really love you. And that sounds like a theater kind of like, I love you. Like, do you really? Because you don't know me. But I do, because my message today is something I'm very passionate about and that I have been, I feel like my whole life. And it's that I'm a child of God, and so is everyone else. And that love I have for you, I've just carried it. And even from like childhood, I just love people. I'm 100% an extrovert. Like I will leave today super energized, ready to go tackle a project. Where my husband, who's a social introvert, he loves people, but he will be drained and have to go home and like recharge alone. But I came out ready to embrace the world. And like my mom reminds me when I was born that I had a giant head. I was the 5th of 10. And she says, I'm the one who she thought she was going to die. Pretty much. And turns out I was like super late. What is on it, and I was big. But she also comforts me. The swelling went down. I became a regular cute baby, just like every baby. And so that's nice. I rely on that sometimes still today. Like I'll wake up like, well, the swelling will go down. It's fine. But I love baby Tanya. And don't you love, all babies, right? Like we just look at them and they have no idea what's going on, and we're so proud of them about everything. And I want you to think about yourself as a baby, because I know we can think about the babies that in our world, whether they're ones we've birthed or ones just we have around in our influence in our family. But I want you to think about yourself as a baby. And is there that little bit of like longing and love for that little baby you? Am I alone in this? Raise a hand so I'm not alone in this. Do you think about yourself as a baby ever? Okay, I'm alone in this, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know if it's just that at that point I hadn't made any embarrassing mistakes, so I love baby Tanya. But, so I guess what I want you now to do then is I'm going to challenge you. Think about yourself as a baby for a moment. What did you look like? I did not have red hair, he's right. I think in my heart I'm a redhead, but I didn't discover it until high school. I was in a play, colored the hair temporarily red. It was so fun. College, that's the time of like, let's just try something. And I went red and I never looked back. So I think it's in my heart now. It's like seeped into me, so. But I was towhead, just super wispy blonde hair. And when you think about, so this I know you can be proud of everyone as a baby, because it's universal for all babies. The moment they become self-aware. I always love when babies like discover themselves in the mirror the first time. And there's this like excitement of like, that's me. I can touch that, that's me. Or when they discover their hands and they put their hands to their mouth, and we're so proud of them, like a good burp. No one has congratulated me recently on any of my burps, and they were so proud of them. They were just, like, they just did, they progressed. And they were walking one day, and they were walking nowhere. We weren't proud because they got to the kitchen, or they suddenly were going on a trek, or now they could go out and like plow the field because you're walking. We were just so proud that they were progressing and they were walking. And there's this moment, I have some particular memories of this difference between being self-aware and then self-conscious. And I want to differentiate between the two, because what I'm hoping we can do is give you some tools that in life, when the self-conscious moments creep in, we can kick them out. So we're so proud, we're self-aware. And I remember when I was little, and Saturday before church, Mom would put our hair in curlers, the great spongy kind. And Sunday morning, you pull the curlers out, you're getting ready. I come from a family of 10 kids. So by the time this happened, when I was like 7, there's a bunch of kids below me. My mom's busy, so I'm getting my hair, I'm like finishing up my hair. And I noticed this one lock of hair that just wasn't curly like the others. It's sponge curlers, your hair's all curly, but this one lock just wasn't curly. So to fix it, because I'm 7 and I'm smart, I took a pair of scissors and I just chopped the lock off. Problem solved for about 30 seconds until I realized exactly what I had done. And I was filled with shame. Oh, the embarrassment. Oh no, what's my mom gonna say? So I took the lock of hair, because I'm 7 and I'm smart, and I go hide it in the backyard. Like it's a telltale heart. Like what is this Edgar Allan Poe business? But I go hide the hair. And that worked for about 30 seconds until I also realized, like, I don't know, it's like a beating heart. Like what, it's gonna be found out. So of course, I take the lock of hair to my mom. This is what I've done. And she's probably too busy to care. She's probably like, oh, Tanya, it's gonna grow out, right? But that was a moment of self-conscious. I was definitely self-conscious about this hair. I was occupied with it. I had, and I guess to define what I imagine self-conscious looks like, it's where there's a fact. I had hair that wasn't curly like the others, but I had attached a judgment to it. I had decided that because of that imperfect hair, my worth was in question. And so even if I really did want to like recurl it, perfect it, even if I want to work on something that's not perfect, the fact was I had attached my worth to this imperfection. And that's where the self-conscious came in. So then a few months later, as my hair's growing out, at school we're drawing self-portraits. And so I have it still, this self-portrait that I drew, and I have my birthmark on there, and I have my hair, and my mom, as my hair grew out, she, in a half ponytail. It's funny because it wasn't like the cute 80s, like popular side ponytail. It was just wherever the hair could reach because it was short. So I just kind of had this like off to the side ponytail, and then it's still growing out, so I have these little like hairs sticking out. And I drew it in the self-portrait. The self-portrait has the side ponytail, the off to the side ponytail, and the hair sticking out. But I wasn't embarrassed. I was self-aware. I knew exactly what I looked like, but at that moment, my worth wasn't attached to this hair that was growing out. And I think if we're thinking about our amazing selves as little kids, I bet you could pinpoint these moments throughout your life where you were self-aware, or then maybe were you self-conscious. And so it was nice to be able to figure out the difference between the two, to be able to talk back to it. And this is not a skill that has come naturally. This is a skill that has been hard won and practiced, and I continue to practice. of having to talk to, and I'm a talker, so I'm really good at it, talking back to these things when these like intrusive thoughts come in. And there's another moment where, because I love everyone. And so I was little, and I remember getting up to bear my testimony. And we all know what little kid testimonies are like, and they're just glorious, aren't they? Like, they're just pure, and they have no experience to back it up, but they have their testimony. And I think I was starting to list all the people and things I love, and I'm sure it kind of got into like a list of just like things that I love. So I can imagine, like, I've been in the congregation before when an adorable kid is bearing their testimony, and you're just loving them, and so like laughter comes out because you're happy. So I know that that's probably what was happening in the congregation, like a supportive kind of chuckle because it's a little kid. But I suddenly became self-conscious of this laughter at my very important testimony. And these things I very much loved. And I remember running out of the chapel and crying because I felt self-conscious. Now, I'm not afraid to tell you all the things I love. And I'm not afraid to cry and to have you see it. And you'll know, as we get to know each other, I cry. I think my heartstrings are directly attached to my tear ducts, so that just comes out. But there's this story that I love about being self-conscious, the example of self-conscious versus self-aware, and that is the classic true story of Adam and Eve. And we're going to get into stories and how much I love them, but Adam and Eve have this great example of self-aware versus self-conscious. So we all know the beginning, right? They're created, they're in the garden, and as we talk about story, we're going to find out that this obviously is not where the story has begun yet, right? This is just setup, if you will, right? Being created, being in the garden, and then we get to where the serpent beguiles and Eve makes a choice, and then Satan says, if in the scriptures it'll say, then they realized they were naked. So it wasn't that suddenly their clothes had come off, it's that they became self-conscious. Like, they had to have been aware that they were naked. They're there. But all of a sudden, they had become self-conscious of being naked, because to them now, their worth, the fact that they deserved to be in the presence of God was in question. But of course, this came from like a liar. Like, God also already knew that they were naked. So I don't, it's that kind of angel, like, what do we think we're hiding? He already knows. He's already seen you. But this self-conscious of, I don't deserve to take up this space. I don't deserve to come to God. I have to do something before I'm worthy of Him. I have to try to hide myself, cover with fig leaves, like the best I can. And of course, it's not going to be enough. It's leaves. It's like, I remember as a little kid, you try to like make things with leaves. My daughter currently is in her leaf phase, and she got really mad when I threw away her leaves she was working on. Like, my leaves, Mom! I'll get you more. There's a tree of them. And these have crumbled. They're gone. They don't last. And so every little effort we make, like fig leaves is such a perfect example of this. Like, I'm going to hide my imperfection. I'm going to figure this out. Before I'm allowed to take up space, I'm going to like stop procrastinating. I'm never going to be late again. I'm going to be so quiet. I'm never going to be loud again. Like, oh, the lies I told myself. But these leaves that we try to cover it up, and then of course they don't work, because we can never figure it out on our own, and we're not meant to. But what's beautiful is that when God comes to them, He didn't say, cover yourself up and then I'll talk to you. He wants us. Our worth is never diminished. And what's beautiful is then, like, yes, this nakedness, this like self-aware, this fact, this truth of what I am as I am right now. And what's beautiful is when then Jesus Christ makes them a coat of skins. And I love that. I love imagery. I love a good analogy. It's the theater girl in me. The fact that would have, I won't say made, I don't know, I wasn't there. But the sacrifice had to be made for it to be a coat of skins. That he had to make a sacrifice for them to be covered this way. And I love that this idea of Adam and Eve were these amazing creations. When God created them, before they had their coat of skins, his work was done and was good. We were good and worthy just as we were. And then he puts things on us to empower us, to strengthen us. The fact that they were going to have to go into a harsh world where they would need to be protected. So the clothing, the coat of skins, and all the other covenants and things we make, they protected and strengthened them. But underneath it all, their worth was still there. And what I really love is that as we read through that story, she's called the woman. Like in the creation, she's called the woman. It's very matter of fact, right? Like, oh, she came out of man. Doesn't that sound like just adorable? Like, that is exactly how my husband would do it. It's logical. Like, she came out of a man. Whoa, man. There you go. There's your name. Like, it's just perfectly logical. And it was great because then it's after she's partaken of this fruit, technically, like, broken a rule, right? Sought after something and is growing, and now they've unlocked potential. This is where the story begins. They've unlocked potential, and so yes, they're going out into the dreary world, and it's hard, and it's going to be harsh. But now there's actually room for growth. There's somewhere to go, and it's here she gets her name Eve. And what's great, sorry, it's May. You guys, how do we talk about women and mothers in May? Whew. And what's great is she gets her name Eve because she's the mother of all living before she ever has children. And if I could just have you think about your baby self again, this potential and how special you are. And it has nothing to do with how many children you technically birth on earth. But the fact that you can progress and you get to grow and you make choices, and sometimes the things will happen to you, and sometimes it'll be because of choices we make, but you can become something from it. And that's the beauty of human story, of this progress we get to have on earth. And so I love Eve so much. I love that I love that we honor her, because I think that's the beauty of none of us are one thing. None of us are one choice. None of us are the one perfect choice we made or the one bad choice we made. And so this beautiful thing of Eve, of like, she was a perfect creation when she was woman. Just being woman. She was wonderful right then. And just nurturing in the garden. And then, even through a choice that she had to overcome and fix, and the Lord was going to help make it right, she now unlocked potential and growth to become something, to become Eve. I just really love that. And so I love to think about like names and the meanings of names and what's my name meaning, and it's always fun to get to know people that way. And that's what I love about Eve. But so we're gonna get into story now. But I want to think about, as a little kid, this creation process that we get to partake in on earth, right? And when you were a little kid, or I did at least, I'd like make mud pies and you just have fun, I pretended to be a secretary. I've since learned I could also pretend to be a lawyer, whatever. But I wanted to like work for my dad, and so he was a lawyer, so I was gonna be a secretary so I could work with him. And he's the one who's told me I could be anything I want, so it's pretty great. But I would make mud pies, and I love like that process of just like gathering the things. And a raise of hand that I'm, maybe won't be zero, but who here can tell me what a mud pie tastes like? Like, yeah, we don't. Good job. I like those. My brother can tell you what a snail tastes like, so it's great. But you have to taste your product. That any good cook or chef knows, yeah. But the process of making the mud pies was an enjoyable memory. Like I loved cooking out in the yard and pretending, and I wasn't worried about the outcome. Fast forward, so that's a self-aware moment. Let's have a self-conscious moment, shall we? I'm a newlywed. So this is 20 years ago. I have 20 years anniversary coming up on the 16th, so that's very exciting. So I'm a newlywed. It's my first Thanksgiving with the in-laws, and I'm gonna wow them. So I call my mom. I want to make her yams. They have marshmallows on top. It's not like rocket science, but I call my mom. I want to do it right. I want to impress the in-laws. So I get the recipe from her. I have some tips, and she says, I like to cut the marshmallows so they just kind of lay better on top. So I'm prepping the meal. I'm getting it ready, and it's a women's conference. Can we do TMI? Is that okay? I was also on birth control that I shouldn't have been. And that's my, I have to say it because what I did was crazy. And so I kind of, I'm defending myself a little bit, I wasn't in my right mind. I'd like to think. I'd like to blame it on the drugs. But I think it could have also been just newlywed Tanya getting a little self-conscious. So I'm in a hurry. Let's do this. Let's make it right. And I say, Tom said, how can I help? Right? That's Tom. When you meet him one day, how can I help? So I say, cut the marshmallows, and I'm gonna finish this. And he said, okay, but I think I don't think your mom meant these because these are mini marshmallows. I think she means just the big ones. And I say, just cut the marshmallows! So pleasant. And he does. He's a good one, right? That's why we made it 20 years. He cuts the marshmallows. And because we're newlyweds and we're not well stocked, all we had in the home was a pair of manicure scissors. The little kind, the metal circles dig your skin when you're trying. Who developed these? But he does. The sweet man sat there and cut those mini marshmallows to the size of Altoids. Yeah. So we get to Thanksgiving. I'm still feeling a little self-defensive about it, and we're all having a good laugh at my expense. And I say, you guys, my mom told me cut the marshmallows. I'm gonna call her. Just you wait. My mom will save me. So I call my mom, put her on speakerphone, because that's a smart thing to do. Remember 7-year-old Tanya? She has ideas. So my mom says, Tanya, did you cut many marshmallows? Hang up. Oh, lost the connection there. So what's great now is, that was definitely a moment of self-conscious. That was a moment where I felt, one, my worth was connected to sweet potatoes. Two, that this family who I was already sealed to was what? Gonna kick me out if they weren't great? Which of course they wouldn't. I have the best, I don't call them in-laws, right? Just family. But what's nice now is, every year at Thanksgiving, I try to find a quiet moment, and I just sit at the table. I'm crying over marshmallows. You guys! I just take a moment, and I just cut some marshmallows into Altoid size. And so at Thanksgiving, we have a little bowl of mini Altoid size marshmallows. Because now I'm just aware of it, right? I'm no longer self-conscious of it. I'm aware, yep, that happened. I have since learned, I have been to culinary school. We did not chop any marshmallows there. But I just can like connect now to this moment, and I feel so grateful for my husband, so grateful for what I learned, so grateful for the laughter I can have from it. And so this moment, this part of my story that was just like so embarrassing, and I would have loved to have done it right. But now I've become something from it, right? Something good has come out of even these mini marshmallows. So, another great thing with Tom is we get to perform improv together, and that has been a real joy. That we can go and like on date night instead of like dinner and a show, we can like dinner and be in a show. So it's awesome. And improv is one of my very favorite forms of theater because it's storytelling. It's in the moment, and it's this messy creation all together. And I think that's where I realized, like in theater, I loved creating a moment where like everyone's there with the character and they're feeling it. Or in culinary arts, when like catering and cooking, even just a meal at home, I love that moment where like everyone's quiet just for a minute and they're all just enjoying the meal. I now it's just because it's so rare to have a quiet moment with kids, but like I love that moment where everyone's just kind of enjoying something together that I created. And that's improv. Every time you create something that's never been seen, that'll never be seen again, it's so in the moment, it's great. And then if it's terrible, it's also great because it's gone. There's no proof. But, so one of the elements of improv is story and storytelling. So we're actually going to do a little bit today. You guys get to be improvisers. We're going to I'm not going to embarrass anyone. Don't worry. You don't even have to get up from the table because it's honoring women. So like, how do we best honor you? Let you sit. just tell me to sit. So, but in story and improv, there are these like terms that we use to kind of craft a story. And it's similar, like in literary terms, you'll hear things like, exposition, climax, denouement. In improv, we made up our own, because we like making things up. So when you're crafting a story and you're thinking about where it's going, and you can think about any classic story, there are these steps. Once upon a time, and that's just the beginning, that's the setting. That's like, who are the people? Where do they live? What does it look like? Is it modern? Is it imaginary? Just you're creating a picture. This is still life, nothing's happening. And then every day, this is their normal. Every day they would ... right? And here's an example. I'll use Goldilocks is a great example, right? And you could think of any classic Disney story. Yeah. So once upon a time, there were 3 bears. They lived in a house. They're very well-to-do. Good job, bears. And right, these bears live in a house. That's our once upon a time. Every day they would go on a walk, right? They'd make their meal, then go on a walk, because that's logical. That sounds like something 7-year-old Tanya would do. Like, good, breakfast is ready. Let's go on a walk. Like, okay. Then we get to the next step. So that's our everyday. That's their norm. Then the next step is until one day. Something shifts. Something changes. Something actually creates a story. Because otherwise, why would we watch bears eat breakfast? Like, I don't know. Maybe on TikTok. I would definitely watch that. But until one day. What happens? They go out for a walk, and what's different? You can shout it out. Goldilocks enters. The evil, dark Goldilocks. She comes to their house. I don't know if she knocks, but she comes in. And then we get into the next steps that they're the chunk of the story. And we call them because of that. Because of that, because of that, because of that. And you get a lot of that with Goldilocks, right? She tries the hot one, too hot. Because of that, she tries the next one, too cold. And that sums up motherhood, doesn't it? Somehow her food is cold and the kids is just right. That's fine. And then, she gets her because of that. And then she eats the food. Because of that, she goes to sit. Because of that, we get to the beds. Because of that, and that's all our action. Until finally, that's where we get to like this kind of like climax. Until finally is our next step. And what happens until finally? What's our until finally for Goldie? The bears come home, right? And I don't know if they invite her to stay. She runs away, right? So we have our climax, our solution. And then the last one is ever since then. And we won't say happily ever after because there are stories that don't end happily ever after. Shakespeare gave us some pretty good tragedies. But at least for stories, it's ever since then. Like maybe the bears lock their doors when they go for a walk, or eat breakfast before they go for a walk, or had a good conversation with Goldie and invited her to breakfast next time. Because this poor girl, what was she doing alone in the woods, right? So that's our story steps. Once upon a time, every day, until one day, because of that, we'll have a bunch of those, until finally, and ever since then. And Adam and Eve are okay, we're gonna do the exercise first. So, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna create a story together that has never been heard before, and if you want, will never be heard again, depending on how it goes, guys. This is all on you, just kidding. And it's gonna be messy. You're going to think the story is going somewhere. You're gonna think you know where it's going, and it's not. Someone's gonna say something, and it's gonna shoot it in another direction. This is one of the great principles of improv that has also blessed my personal life. That when you think where the story's going, and it doesn't go that way, you have to, we call it kill your darlings. You just have to you have to drop whatever idea you had, and it was probably awesome. It was probably exactly where the story should have gone, but you kill it. Because that's not where the story's going now. So for the story to progress, you just drop whatever idea you thought was going, and you now move in this direction. And it takes listening, like paying attention, what characters did they introduce or whatever, right? So, but it's gonna be messy, and that's okay, because it's a mud pie, okay? We're making a mud pie. We're not worried about yams with marshmallows, we're making a mud pie. Okay, so we're gonna go table by table, and I'm guessing that at each table, there's at least one of you who's like, yes, I can say a sentence of a story, right? Okay, all right, so let's get a title for this story that's never been told before. Just a title of a story you wish existed. You can shout it out. Okay. I know I said we're honoring women so you could relax, but come on, guys. The
Big picture.
The big picture. Okay, great. Now we're not starting with you though. We're gonna start here. So, is there someone brave? Because this is a brave, safe setting, guys. Is there someone brave who can give us a sentence? And it'll start, once upon a time, and you're just painting a picture, right? You're saying there's maybe a character and where they live. Any volunteers? Anyone have a sentence that popped in their head? Yes.
Once upon a time, there's a family named Merkley that lived in a little town named Merkleyville in Washington State.
That sounds like a grandma's dream. Did you plan that out? Is this you hoping, once upon a time there was a family and they moved in with their mother and all the grandchildren were around her every day, all the time? Said the grandma. I love it. Okay, so there's once upon a time there was a family named the Merkleys, and they lived in Merkleyville in Washington. Washington State. Okay, we're going across country now. Okay, we got trees, rain. Okay, this is good. This is setting. This is people. There's multiple people. Okay, now we need an everyday. So now the picture's coming to life. Do you remember the Hello Dolly movie? I love it. Where they start out like this, and then it pans up, and they start walking. And they got their bustle. In a musical, it would be a bustle. They are about town. They are crossing the stage. They have things to do and places to go. So, what's our everyday? Everyday, this family in Washington, what would they do? And don't worry about what you go where you want. Yes.
Every day, the Merkley family would go into the woods and hunt for trolls.
Nice. This is every day, of course, that's you. Every day, the Merkley family would go into the woods and hunt for trolls. Exactly where you thought it was going, right? Okay, awesome. All right. Who's going to give us our until one day? Some of you are making eye contact because you don't want me to come to you, but that's okay. So let's come. Okay, give me an until one day. I know you're a small table. Sorry, you're on the spot. Something happens.
Until one day, a tree crashed down and killed half the family.
This is tragic. This took a turn. We are jumping in. Okay. I like it. Shakespeare would be so proud of you right now. Moms don't mess around. I thought the kids, when I teach kid classes improv and the kids are like, and they brought out these dragons. Like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, yeah, half of them are dead. This is real life. This is stuff. Okay, now, because of that, okay, I love it. Okay, this is great. So half of them are dead. Because of that, where do you want to go? Yes.
The family never knew if they could hunt for trolls again.
They are devastated. They are in a state of fear. She said, so because of that, the family didn't know if they could ever hunt for trolls again. And what's great in story is, even though, and we do it in real life too, there are times where you'd like to curl up. Wasn't it President Nelson? Didn't he just recently say how sometimes he just wants to curl up and so it's great that even he can experience that, where you're just like, can I just take a day? I don't process this. Half my family is dead by a tree. So I can, but then the beauty of stories is they won't. And you know this as a mom, right? You'll be like, give me a minute in the closet, I'm gonna eat this chocolate, and then you go, and then you keep on, right? So they don't know if they can keep going. That's this mental state they're in. But because of that, what happens next? Anyone from this table? What sentence pops through your head? Sorry, I understand. Because it took a turn. So now you have to process. Any ideas? There are no wrong ones.
Until a grandma troll showed up on their doorstep with a two-headed baby troll.
Yes, she would, Grandma would. Until a grandma troll showed up on their doorstep with a two-headed baby troll. Okay, I like it. All right, and because of that, it takes a minute. I know, because see, you didn't know there was going to be a two-headed baby troll. You didn't know that was the next step of the story, but it's interesting. So now you got to process. Okay, what because of that? Deliberate among the group. It's okay.
I'm just the one that usually talks.
Oh, gotcha. Trying to give them a chance, yeah. Or they're just expecting. They're like, oh, good, she's at our table. We're safe. It's okay. Women help each other out. Anybody else want to throw one out? Anybody else have a sentence that ran through their head?
So the family adopted the two-headed baby troll
Oh, yes, they did.
and felt better.
Yeah, it doesn't replace half the family that got smushed by a tree, but it's good to have your love focused somewhere. I like it. Okay, so they adopted the baby. I love it. Now, because of that, does that give you anything you want to try? Okay, that's all right. We'll go jump to this table. So we have, because of that, they've adopted this baby. They have a relationship with Grandma Troll, or I don't know. You tell us. They're learning lessons. Oh my gosh, you guys are great. Yes, oh, I love it. There's peace and healing. Come on, you guys. Oh, I love that. Okay, so I think that's bringing us to a good until finally. Or maybe that felt kind of like an until finally, right? They adopted the baby. Or does someone have a different until finally? Yes, oh, I'm ready.
The story is called The Big Picture. So until finally they decided to take a picture with their newfound troll family friends.
You brought in the title! Oh, it's so, that was, yes, there you go. And they took a picture all together. And ever since then, anyone can shout out. Who wants to shout out an ever since then? They did! They lived happily ever after!
They took a big picture every year.
You guys! Give yourself created this? Right? It's a little messy. It's I don't know. That's a mud pie. I think that's more yams with perfectly cut marshmallows is what that was. I think that got there. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that with me. Because what I love about story is, and so I don't know if this, I'm going to project here. For the tables that were along this way, or then even after you had like done your part, do you experience as you're listening to where the story is going, you're like, well, that's different than I anticipated. Did you know that this family, maybe you didn't intend for that to be where it jumped to. They were just going to live with grandma and have a barbecue every Sunday, but they didn't. So what I love about a good story is it has these twists and turns, right? It, like, to be entertaining, half the family dies by a tree. Yes, high stakes. That's what we call in theater, high stakes. No one wants to watch you just eat cereal. We want to find a prize in the cereal. We want to find a hand in the cereal. We need high stakes, happy or sad. But the problem, the hard part about life is when you're living your story, you don't always like to live through the high stakes, right? And so the hard part about story in real life, when all of a sudden something takes a turn and you're not living the story you planned, like you planned on maybe just being sealed in the temple and raising your little kids, and they would never have any problems, and they would all know the gospel, and they'd have all the scriptures memorized, and we would all just have fun together. That was the plan. And then things take a turn. People get sick, people leave us, people die by trees or otherwise, and we have to adjust. We have to take it in, because if we were to think, no, the story was supposed to go this way, and I get trapped in that sometimes. We've all experienced a day, we're like, I'm supposed to be doing this right now, and I call it, we're not in the chapel, so I think I'm allowed to say it in here. I say, I find myself shoulding all over the place. Like, I should be doing this right now. I should be experiencing this. This should be my story. Oh no, I've made a mess. Because none of that's real. It's all a possible story, but it's not the story you're living. And so, what's great about life on earth, and what's great, as we saw from Adam and Eve, our very first example of story, was something happened, right? Until one day, the apple was eaten. Not gonna point fingers, just kidding. Choices were made, and the story began. And it goes into a dreary world, and hardship, and sorrow, and childbirth, and the earth being cursed for our sake. And that's like, there's always this element of love for our sake, because there's something we get to become from it. There's something that we can become from our story. And so what do you do? Because I like real tangible tools, right? Like, I love story, but I also have to live life. So what do I do when I'm suddenly living plan B, or something has happened in my story and I have to keep going? There are moments of how do we move forward, and then I have to move forward. And sometimes it's you take a step and you figure it out, and sometimes it's someone else, a sweet grandma troll, someone coming and helping you. And I think we also can experience or think of those experiences in our life. And that's why I'm not afraid of messy anymore. I'm not afraid of mud pie. I love the process of it. I don't know, I do this sometimes. If I'm gonna, usually not a book, but there's times when I'm about to watch a movie and I have to decide, do I want to invest in this movie? Is it gonna have a happy ending? Like, I have to I'll Google sometimes, like, who dies? Or, like, I have to know, like, I have 2 precious hours, the kids are asleep, is this gonna be worth it? And then I can, like, relax, like, okay, I can watch this, or whatever. Even call the midwife sometimes. Whew, high stakes, like, is this baby gonna live or die? Like, there's only 2 outcomes, but every time that is the highest stakes. So I don't know if you do that, It's okay, it's a safe place to admit if you like look at the end of the book, right? But the beautiful thing about life on earth is we all technically know the end of the story. The good guy's going to win. And we are all going to literally live ever after. Like, we know he has spoken in very clear terms. Jesus Christ is going to resurrect every single one of us. And he has always spoken it in very clear terms. He does not say maybe or possibly or I want to, I really want to. He says, I will succor you. We will be resurrected. So we technically know the end of what we think is the end of the story, but there's this big part that says ever after. Because the big spoiler is there is no ending. And the happily part is on us. He's going to take care of the ever after. And so I have to practice now enjoying the mud pie process of it. Enjoying just being self-aware of who I am and my potential and Eve. I'm an Eve, even if I haven't had any physical children on earth. I'm in a relationship now with God, and I have potential, and I have places I'm going, and whatever the story, I can become something from it. And I have things throughout life that have shifted the story for me, and one that it's like kind of a big one recent years was that our third child did pass away when I was pregnant with my fourth. And it's a horror story, so it's not worth getting into. It's the classic pool gate was left open. So we're getting better at saying that sentence. But, anyway, so this plan that I had, my story was going along, and I had this amazing children, and I had plans for all of them. And suddenly I'm living a life that I did not plan. The story took a turn. His birthday is on the 23rd of this month. And every year, now for 4 years, 5 years, I have to, we would be doing this. We would be doing that. But actually, I don't know. We're going to go to a piano recital that night, and we probably still would. He'd be turning 6. You still have to go do things as a family. But I can't live in this, what I could be doing or what I wish I was doing with him. My current story is I have a child who's already in heaven, and I'm raising 3 others. But because I know that Jesus Christ has spoken in very definite terms too, I know we will all live ever after. So what I'm trying to do now is to find this joy that little Tanya had, and I have to ask myself, does 41-year-old Tanya, I have another 2 weeks before I'm 41, I'm still 40. Does 40-year-old Tanya believe what 18-year-old Tanya believed with no experience, and what 4-year-old Tanya believed from the pulpit, with no experience? That I know I am a child of God, and so is everyone else. And I can't do it alone, and I need a grandma troll, or I need a group. And so Archie would say because he was little and he would want you to pick him up, he'd say, need you me. And so you'd pick him up. And that has become this motto now of the need is before both the people, you and me. We all need each other. And it's this summed up, that greatest commandment, the second greatest, they say, to love God and to love your fellow man as yourself. That you need to love yourself, and you need to know what that little child that you would cheer on and be so proud of just for keep going and being aware of themselves and finding themselves in the mirror and loving yourself. And then the beauty is Heavenly Father takes that beautiful, imperfect, growing, progressing person and says, I'm going to give you a coat of skins. I'm going to give you beautiful garments. I'm going to empower you and help you become whatever the step was. I'm going to help you become something from it. And that is a story that is worth every twist, every turn, every tear, every sorrow. Because as Eve told it, because then there's joy. And that's where we can have that happily ever after. And I know that's what God wants for every one of you. And I love seeking it even now. And I love you. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.